Hello, Laura. Welcome to the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me join you today. I'm excited.
Everyone, it's not every day that you get to have a Wall Street Journal's best-selling author on the podcast, but today I am blessed with saying that I get to have one on the show. So, Laura Casselman, you are such a powerhouse. I am just so excited to dive into all the various areas of knowledge that you are so well acquainted with. I just recently read your book, which is completely available right now, guys, out, able to be purchased. I'll put all of the links you need in the show notes. It felt like I was speaking to and speaking with the mentor of my dreams. It's such a comforting book, but also very aspirational, very inspiring. It absolutely is, I think, a corporate guidebook to how to really make it while keeping yourself sane, which I know is part of your tagline. So, could you tell me just we're jumping ahead here, but I loved the book so much, and I know all of my listeners are going to enjoy it too. Tell me what was the impetus for this book and what was, putting all the ideas together for it like for you?
Sure. So, ironically or not, but I am the person who sets for companies, in particular, the ones I own, the ones I run for other people as their CEO. I'm the one that sets the goals and says, here's the direction we're heading. In this book, I did not see the direction, and this is why it's so important in life to get feedback from other people, right? Um, at the beginning, I was repeating business advice over and over again to clients that consult with me. And I thought it was basics information, and I was getting tired of just typing things or repeating things. And I just thought, I'm going to put these things in a Google document so I can easily share with my consulting clients, save myself some time. But what happened was it kept adding on and adding on and adding on. And I thought, wow, I could just finish this out and I've got a book. Sent it for feedback to my friends and other people in the industry. And they all said, how can you write a book about business and not address these very real issues that you've gone through or that I've been through, and say how you do them and how you've managed to still be so positive? Because it causes a lot of anger and frustration, and at many times it feels like we're never going to get where we want to go.
Yeah.
So then I kind of went back and added more of the personal aspect to it. That's not just business, but hey, how do you not lose your soul while you're climbing the corporate ladder when it seems so soul sucking along the way? And now we have Trust Your Increments.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful guidebook, and I will say it was. We'll get into a bit later the personal parts that you have injected into this book with your experience and the things you had been through. Those for me, when I came across them, were quite shocking because it's always, I'm 38. I hit the corporate world in 2007. These things were not discussed. And you would think because it's 2000 something as a date that we've evolved a bit here. But
Mm-hmm.
to hear your recountings of the things that were, rather treacherous parts of your corporate career and climbing the ladder and evolving past these things was so exciting to read because it wasn't being ignored. And these are things that women, especially, must navigate in order to reach the higher tiers and the C suite lifestyle. And it was just, I commend you entirely for sharing your portion and your experience with what it truly was to evolve and grow within the corporate sphere of just secret rules and the old boys club. But it was I was shocked. Where did you find yourself kind of feeling in the moments of sharing those bits of your career experience and your career path? Was it difficult to kind of, I guess, open the lid on your experiences in that regard?
So it wasn't difficult for me to relive them when I was writing them because I knew that one, I never ever changed who I was, that I held steady and who I was, who, I wanted to be in this world. But knowing that I had, I fought so long to get where I am. And other women are still fighting to get even to the next level that they rightfully deserve. And anyone who discusses these things is at risk of being difficult or the problem. And that is, it's so unfair. And recently, even I've heard that because we're in a new era of equality, which is needed, but because we are now having people that don't just identify as male or female, that it's not okay to talk about things that happen to women in the workplace, that we need to talk about things as a whole. And while theoretically I'd like to agree with that, until women are paid equally, we cannot speak as a whole. Mm. And I really feel strongly about that.
I agree with you there. The discrepancies have always just been something that everyone was conceivingly, I guess, just able to look away from. I really did enjoy your. I guess we'll just dive into it now because there's too many good things in the book to not discuss them immediately. You really spoke heavily about the disparaging levels of just discrepancy in pay. It's disgusting. It's 2023, and it just doesn't stop with women being paid less. There's even further, just really gross inequities amongst women of different races. And I love so much that you touched on this in the book, amongst many other things. But as any woman that's ever worked corporate, and then a couple weeks into the job, you hear that the new 25-year-old kid that just got hired 2 years out of school is getting paid 10 to 12K more than you because it's expected for him to have a family soon when you're in your 30s. And you're like, wait, what the heck? I've been working for longer than like since he graduated high school. Like, what do you mean?
Yes.
Tell us about your very deep connection with trying to right this wrong, and the way in which you have allowed women in your businesses, in the companies you're a CEO of, to almost rectify this a bit with their bringing forward what they'd like to be paid. I loved that chapter, by the
Yes.
way.
So, of course, you can't just tell people, I'll pay you whatever. In your company, when you are creating a position, you have a pay range that you can afford that makes sense for the position. So, know what the range is. You've got to do research for what the norm is and what your company can afford. And then when you post a job posting, you post the pay range. Now, unless you're going to also be willing to write, women will be on the lowest end of this range, then I recommend that you don't judge women based off the fact that they have the gender of female and pay them less. I don't. I then let the women that and men that apply and make it through all of our interviews name their salary. Their salary, of course, has to fall within the range that I can afford to pay. But I don't name their salary, they name it. I then say, you just set the bar. You set the bar. That's how high you have to jump every day. Are you still comfortable with what you've just asked for? And then they say yes or no, and we go from there. Most of the time people do say yes, because by the time they get to me, I'm always the last interview in my company. I'm no longer interviewing them. I've already heard everything from my team. I'm asking them, what did you learn about my company? What questions do you still have? Are you sure you're the right fit for this job and we're the right fit for you? Then I say, name your salary. After that, we go from there. Generally speaking, women always name on the lower end of what I can pay. Even women that are like extremely qualified. It blows my mind. And so I always say, whether they're on the lower end, whether they're male or female, whatever, for every person I hire, I'll pay you that. In 90 days, we review and we determine together, was this right for you? And many times I have to tell the women this was the wrong thing to choose.
Yeah. Man, you are a dream boss, first and foremost. Second, thank you for setting the precedent that there can be change without disrupting the bottom dollar and without shortchanging the employees that you need to exist, one, and two, the ones that you want to have a good working relationship with. And, right out the gate, you're removing so much resentment that builds really quickly into a new hire coming in, realizing like, holy crap, I'm doing like way more work than I thought I would. I'm feeling bitter now about what I agreed to be paid that they had offered me. It's just such a beautiful role reversal that I really would imagine has done wonders for I would imagine the camaraderie of your company and the way that they feel about you. What has been your experience with that in terms of seeing the after effects of them recognizing like, wow, I'm in a new place here. Like this is a new it's a new
Yeah.
situation.
I have such a strong team, and I'm a big believer in team. So I'm part of that team. Of course, it's like if you were the captain of a sports team, I'm calling the shots, I'm calling the plays, but I'm still part of the team and I have to carry my weight too. And I always say there's no job beneath me. I will take out the trash in the office. I will wash the dishes that are in the sink. If it's one person who never washes their dishes, just like your mom, I'm going to tell you, hey, you have to wash your dishes. Like not everyone's supposed to clean up after you. But in particular, if my dev team is in office, and I have always had 100% telecommuting, but sometimes for camaraderie, people want to come in, or if we have a hard deadline, people want to come in. And if they're all in and they're in a workflow and they're just, never coming up for air, they're eating at their desk, they're leaving their drinks on their desk, I will walk by and pick up empty cups. I will put them in the sink and wash them myself because they're working for the goal of the team. And if I can't sit down and program with them, then I can wash their dirty dishes.
Oh, man. It's so interesting to see what just a few simple, polite, conscientious tweaks can do for the overall health of a company.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, I mean, I'm very aware that you think very independently from most CEOs in America, let alone, I'm guessing, globally. Where do you think your stance as a non-atypical CEO has given you the ability to really grow out both the company that you're a CEO for as well as the companies that you own?
Well, I think one, because I know how much further we can go together, I build these strong teams and they all love the company and the culture. They don't want to lose their jobs that allows them to also have a life. So everybody works collectively together. When we take vacations, we let each other know. We know who's covering for us. They tell me, like, hey, I'm going to be gone these days. This person's covering for me if you need something. And we always have each other's backs, including mine. Like when I was in the hospital because my father was ill and I was staying with him, the team was constantly like, we've got your back. What do you need? How can we help you? What can we take off your plate today? In fact, I would guess that probably 4 out of every 5 days of the work week, 2 or 3 of my team is reaching out to me saying, what can I take off your plate today? And
Wow.
it's just this great system that I've built and I know works. So many leaders want to have these strong teams and they don't know how. And I say, be stricter on your hiring process. Really know who you're bringing onto your team because some people need to be micromanaged. Those people don't belong on my team. I'm not a micromanager. I want you to be a mature adult who understands the position that you're taking and knows like, this is my personal life on this hand. This is my work life on this hand. These are the expectations I have on one side and the deadlines I have on the other. How do I manage my own time to get them both done? I don't want someone at work at 9 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning if it's going to prevent them from being happy, part of the team, and getting the job done. If it's not emergent, why do I need someone to clock in, so to speak, at 8:30 or 9? Granted, I don't have a storefront that people walk into and I don't have to have doors open at a certain time. I run online businesses. So some things this works for and some it doesn't. But my team members don't tell me when they have a dentist appointment or when they need to leave early to take a kid to a doctor's appointment. I don't care about that. Just handle your business.
Oh, the word that keeps coming to mind here is just refreshing. This is like it truly is. And if it were up to most employees, it sounds like they would build a business model or at least a way to run a corporate office very similarly to how you have. So I wonder if your time in corporate, in positions where you weren't able to kind of dictate the flow and the vibe of the office space, did that have a lot to do with how you programmed out your companies and work with your current role as CEO?
So much to do with it. Of course, climbing the ladder, there were people that I learned from, that I learned exactly how I wanted to do things or how they motivated their department or whatnot. But then there were also many more people that I learned what I would never do if I were in charge. One, I don't believe that the outline for where the company's going this year is a need to know basis. I think everyone on my team must know if we're going to get there. There is no one on my team that doesn't know why I have made the decisions I've made and where we're going this year. Because if we need to hash them out at the beginning of the year, that's going to be one conversation. I don't want it happening over and over again. And I also really hated when I was in corporate America climbing the ladder and I was told like I didn't need to know why we had changed completely from last year what we were doing.
Yeah.
I thought, how silly is that? You want me to help you achieve this goal, but you don't want to tell me why? So silly. So my team all knows why I'm making the decisions I'm making. Doesn't mean that they don't say, can I give some feedback here? Is this really what we want to do? And we talk about it. And I will sometimes have to say, I understand what you're saying, but the decision has been made by myself and the board. And therefore, at least they know, like, you've been heard. This is a real valid point. Unfortunately, that this time the decision doesn't go your way. But it doesn't mean that they feel like they can't row the boat and still be part of the team. They do because I respect them enough to tell them. Also, ironically, I think the people that I most disliked being my managers along the way that wouldn't share information with me or disrespected me and just treated me like an employee, I think it's really interesting that they're still in the exact same positions that I worked for them under. None of them have grown. None of them have been promoted. None of them.
I think it has a lot to say that I do believe there's been a great shift, and then there's been another shift since then that is still, both shifts still seem to be panning out. I think the first was from the late 90s into the early 2000s, 2010 era, where it was very solidly the boys' club. There was no, my goodness, if you brought any kind of complaint to HR about anything regarding a man and them saying something to you, you were going to be politely removed because we hear you're not happy here. Like
Yes.
that conversation, the very non-coital ways in which they were able to politely let you go, move on, you're not going to be a good cog in this wheel. And then since then, it seems from about 2010 till about now, the younger generations feel more. They want to know why you're doing something. They want to know the purpose. They want to be a part of the strategy. And I think it speaks a lot to the business model that you've created because it not only creates, there's no gatekeeping of information, there's no hierarchy of who gets to know what because they're cooler than everyone else. And I would imagine that that leads to a lot less like microaggressions amongst the team, amongst people feeling, not included or, well, why do they get to know and I'm just under them and I'll be doing the work anyway because that's what my job is. Like, why can't I be a part of this conversation? And I think just the sheer respect, being seen, being heard are things that have been really severely left out of a lot of business models and I think could truly just smooth out a lot of the kinks that eventually lead to complete, blocks in the hose that allow for nothing to be done because you're in a crisis mode now and you have a big HR problem on your hands with a lot of unhappy people. But I really enjoyed the way that you stated a few different times throughout the book, play the game until you get into a position to change the rules and then do good. Make the rules do good for the most amount of people. And it really does feel like this is something you've embodied completely and done so to the tune of being able to change several companies and elicit this leadership in others in those roles that then in turn have gone on to create other companies. So you're doing an amazing job for just changing the corporate landscape, I think, in a really subtle way that will be a ripple effect. And certainly your book is also going to help that happen. But was this your overall purpose when thinking about how you could kind of stand alone in creating a company that felt good for you and you knew would feel good for your employees?
Yes, I believe it was always. I may not have always been clear on it, but from the moment I became an executive, I was like, how do I lead these people and feel good about what I do and them feel good about what they're doing? I think that that's so important. Granted, at the end of the day, it's still business
Yeah.
and the job must get done. So there are times that none of us feel great. Like there are days I don't want to work either. And we just have to be responsible adults and get it done.
Yeah.
That's part of just being an adult, though. So, yes, while I do care about my employees and how they feel, they also know that, listen, there are days none of us feel great. There are days none of us want to work, and we still have to get it done. And that's part of team building, right? When you build a team, you work as a team, you carry the weaker people through during their weak times, but also when people just don't want to, they realize, hey, I'd let the team down if I didn't do this today. And that's a really good feeling because when we win as a team. When we lose as a team. And like I said, I think I've built this really cool thing where people don't want to have to go work anywhere else. They're like, I really like what I've got going here.
Yeah.
And another thing about this team too, when I was building it, is I thought how many times I worked in companies that had so many people in the middle. They were just filling spaces, but no one knew why. So I started asking my team, do we need to hire someone else? Or do you just need to make more money to keep doing this? So my team decides we all need a raise, or take that money that you could split between us and hire someone else to help us. And they've gotten very good at knowing when to hire and when not to, which is great because if any of them ever did leave to start their own companies, they're getting hands-on experience of knowing that because too many companies just hire because they feel like, oh, we've got the money for it and we need to put bodies in this building. That's so silly.
I wonder if, and I'm going to segue a little bit here. I wonder if your many years as a dancer, and many of which was as a company dancer, having to work with a large unit, move in step, be simpatico, details, etc. I wonder if that led you to really understanding the microcosms of how people's feelings, the level of respect they're shown, and overall the instructions, the directions they're given. You've broken down so many barriers with transparency in conversations that typically are just left in the shadows because the higher ups don't want to hear the answer because they know the answer is going to cost more money, or it's going to cost to hire, or it's going to cost to fire. And in avoiding these things only fester and get worse. And I wonder if your time as a dancer, understanding what it means to truly work simpatico, work as a team, led you to understanding that it's the minutia, it's the little itty bitty things that it sounds like were your focus in making sure that the larger things ended up just happening naturally.
I definitely believe so. Being a Radio City Rockette is all about teamwork. But one thing in theater that I was so fortunate to understand at a young age, because I was in theater from 3 years old on, was that the whole is what puts on the show. And the people on stage get the applause and get to give the bows, but without the lighting technicians or the people moving the sets backstage or the person running the sound, none of it would ever happen. And I believe I was in college when I first started realizing, because I never danced to live music, it was always recorded music. And in college, we had people in the class that would play to what the instructor was giving. And we would always go over and bow at the end of class to the musician. And that's when it really clicked for me. And I always, after every show, would thank everyone who set my props, who was doing lighting, everything, because I was so grateful that the show was amazing. And I realized that I didn't do that and the people on stage didn't do that alone. A combination of that and then working in gyms in New York City, realizing that every time in these massive gyms, and not just like one location, but places that had 140 plus locations under their umbrella, when they would need to cut back and save money, they would always let go of housekeeping first because they were the lowest paid, and they would let go of hundreds of them to meet what really would have been two middle managers. And I was like, so now we've got dirty gyms. No one wants to work out here because they're dirty. We've got infection being spread, and we've just saved very little money to now have a very expensive problem. And I would always go, this is insane. And no one would listen to me. So as I started moving up in management there, that's where I really learned to build my teams like the theater. Because the first thing I would do was sit down with my whole housekeeping staff and say, when's the last time you've had a raise? 7 years, eh? Wow. Right? 7 years. How have these people been overlooked? And so I would never let anyone on my housekeeping team go unless there was a problem. I would fight for my housekeeping team. I would take hits to my own salary to keep my housekeeping team. And I think that's another thing as well, is I always would tell my entire teams, what do you get if I hit my quota? And they would say nothing. And I'm like, what do I get? They'd say bonus. And I'd be like, guess what? We all get bonus now if I hit my quota, because I will now share my bonus with you. My team's always won. Always. They still do.
Man, you are so inspirational of a leader, of a business owner. I hope that all of you listening to this episode will do your best to just take one thing so far that Laura said and work hard to implement it, and then take another and implement that. The way in which change is done, in my eyes, best over time, is 1% a day.
Mm-hmm.
Your book very much speaks to that. And I would imagine that in your life, you have always kind of taken a one step, one foot in front of the other type of approach to, you know, building up your self-esteem. You have amazing self-esteem. Your confidence is through the roof. And to be a business owner and a leader, it does require a good amount of resilience and grit and the ability to pivot without getting too flustered. For those listening that are looking to be a stronger leader, a stronger CEO, but maybe they falter a little in their values, or really thinking that they can be a strong leader like you, what would be some tips and some advice for how they can get started to feel a little more who they really are inside, the person that's waiting to come out and be that CEO?
I love this question. Thank you for asking it. I feel like for people to build their confidence, and it doesn't even matter if you're trying to become a CEO, just wherever you are, if you feel like you need to build confidence, the easiest way to do that is to start taking the daily steps, the daily actions towards the goal. Whatever your goal is, write it down, break it down into just tiny steps, and work your plan over and over again, and you will find that you are working out your confidence muscle. You are building it stronger and stronger and stronger. And whereas you'll start with extremely detailed plans and probably a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, you'll no longer need plan B and C, because you become so confident in your abilities to execute that you realize if you need to pivot, if you need to take a detour, if what you planned isn't going swimmingly, you can handle it. You will find another way, and you will still reach your goals. So just start taking daily steps. Nothing has to be a quantum leap. Yeah. Small steps consistently.
Those are beautiful words of advice. And I think a lot of people get really overwhelmed because they do think it's going to require huge leaps to get, you're 4 miles away from the base of the mountain, and in the distance, all you can see is that peak. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'll never get to the top of it. But a career, a path of being an entrepreneur, or, doing both as you do, does require that 1 foot in front of the other mentality. Now, you're a co-founder of 2 companies, Vita Street and Hestla Trades, yes, as well as the CEO of a huge affiliate marketing company. May I say who? Is that okay?
Of course.
Oh yeah, JV Zoo. So you're busy, okay? Could you explain how you keep it all together? How do you personally manage your roles between these three companies. You're also an author. You're also doing a lot for your book. You are a high performer, high achiever, type A individual. So please
Yeah.
give us some tips as to how you keep it all together for yourself.
Yes, I love this because this is what I live my life by and always have. I have a notebook, simple notebook. I'll show you because we're on video, but this black notebook
I
is
have
my
the same
jam.
exact notebook. Oh my
Isn't it
God.
the best? You can
It
get
is.
it at TJ Maxx, Marshalls, whatever. When
Yep.
they get them in where I am, I go buy every one that they have.
Yep. So funny.
And you need nothing fancy. I will not try to sell you a journal or tell you how to best plan your day. You can just get pen to paper and keep it all in one place. That's why I like the spiral bound.
Mhm.
Now, the reason I say pen to paper, even though I'm a tech CEO, is that research has proven that the actual act of writing something down versus typing it is associated with more robust brain activity. So, more robust brain activity helps us think better, more clearly, and accomplish our goals, which is what we're aiming for here.
Mhm.
I plan everything out. So, for every company that I'm running, there's a page at the front of the notebook that says, these are my yearly goals. I break those yearly goals down to quarterly goals. I break those quarterly goals are like 10 to 15 milestones, by the way, that we need to hit in order to reach the yearly goal. Then I break those down with the managers of each department, what needs to get done in order to be on track by the end of each quarter. And I let them handle for their departments, but me for myself, what has to be done each day. And it's so important that we eat the frog, do the uncomfortable things, the things we don't want to do first thing in the morning. You've got to do those and then check them off your list because that little dopamine burst of the actual physical act of checking it off your list is going to give you the motivation to eat that next frog. There is a whole like scientific reason why I do the things I do. Then after you do those, the easy task, you can just go right through those one after another because you did those hard tasks first. The final thing of every single day is I plan tomorrow out because I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. My alarm may not go off. My toddler may throw her body on the floor before we're walking out the door for reasons unknown to me, and I've just got to wait it out. There could be a car wreck when I'm driving to work or to drop her off at school. So many things that could happen outside of my control. My emotions may be high by the time I get to my desk, but when I sit down at my desk, I don't have to think. I just check off my list. One step at a time. It's so easy to do. And that's my process, and it has never failed to date. I say it all the time. I came from a one stoplight town. I graduated with 17 people. I was a Radio City Rockette. I'm a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. I've been on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing list of companies in America 4 times. Would have been 6 if I'd have just applied more. I have all these awards and accomplishments, and not one thing about me is special. Nothing is special. I just make a plan and I work the plan. Every single person can do the same.
Yeah. Whew, I'm a crier and you just got me there. Your energy is just, it's so beautiful. The light really does just like pour out of your soul. And I think that a lot of people really need this energy right now. They need this advice. They need it in digestible ways that feel comfortable but confident and like, yeah, this is just what I need to do. And guys, anybody can take a piece of paper. It can be a scrap piece of paper. Write it down. It's
Yeah.
easy. Do one thing at a time. I love that so much because I think people assume that when you reach your level of success and continue to climb and climb and climb, that it needs to get trickier or more intricate. And
Yes.
the devil is in the details for sure, but it can be a small list of details. And I love the way you break that down. It's so digestible, completely easy to be able to do. And it really is a testament to your book. Trust your increments. One to-do list, check off box at a time is you're right. It is going to give you that dopamine boost you need to get through your day and to just feel accomplished. And day after day of doing that same thing, you are going to find yourself in a similar place to Laura, and you're going to be able to turn around and go, "Holy crap, I did that." And you are special. I understand the adage, I really do. But there are doers and there are watchers. You're a doer, and doers are special because the doers are the people that show us how we can do it, so we feel comfortable to try. And man, the thing that drew me to you and wanting to have this conversation was so much of your light and your energy is just pouring through your content, and it gave me goosebumps, and I was like, man, we need more people like this in the world that are going to just pick people up rather than push them out of the way because they're not on the same wavelength. And you really do go to great lengths, and you have varying levels, guys. The education that Laura shares, from financial advice, you have a really great template that's been helping me. Thank you for that template. I'll include the link for you to be able to sign up for that template with Laura. But you just offer such paramount advice at all different levels of business. And I just thank you for sharing that, because we are in a time right now in this world where there are people that want to grow and there are people that don't. And the
Yes.
people that want to grow need more people that are ahead of them to turn around and say, come on, come this way. You can do it. You can do it.
Yes.
That is you. You are such a treasure in a light. I really do appreciate your work for sure.
Thank you. I was speaking at an event not long ago, and I shared a statistic where 95% of all winning is done by only 5% of the participants. Like, that is overwhelming, right? But the one thing that the 5% has in common, and because this is all winning, by the way, people, like, this isn't winning in one category. It's all winning, winning in business, winning in competitions, sporting competitions. 5% of the participants continue to win. And the one thing that they have in common is mindset. And what that means to me is, when you choose to believe in yourself and start taking the daily steps towards your goals, you will join that 5%. And since it's such a small percentage, no one risks losing any of the pie. There's 95% of the pie to grab, people. Like, come join us in the winner's circle. There's space for you here. All you have to do is believe in yourself and work towards your goals, your idea of success, for whatever that means to you.
Ugh, I love so much that you are a champion for winning and for competition.
Yes.
It has become a bit of an odd topic. It's like,
Mhm.
depending on who you're speaking to, winning and working towards winning and healthy competition can be kind of like, oh, we don't do that here. But I am a go-getter and a type A person, and I love some competition. So it was so just it felt very poignant to me that you were highlighting the ways in which you enjoy competition throughout your book. There's so many different opportunities for you to see how competition is good for you and those around you. It can help, it's a rising tide helps all boats float sort of scenario if you are kind of just putting in that effort. But it's important that as a society we strive to win, and that winning doesn't need to be secular. It can be a win for the team, as you've shown so many times beautifully throughout your book and just what you've done with your companies and your career. Do you have any advice for someone that is struggling with their feelings about wanting to win because those around them maybe don't share that same adage?
Well, I think that sometimes we just have to accept we're different than other people and be confident in who we are. And we're not everyone's cup of tea. We just aren't. I would love for everyone to like me and think I'm spectacular. But the reality is not everyone does like me, you know? And that's okay. Those aren't my people. I surround myself by my people. I get to choose my people in this world, and I do so intelligently. I do not go out and find people who make me feel worse about myself. I do not find people that make me want to be less and try to make me smaller. I have been around people that do that, and I have had to work at times to move far away from those people.
Yeah.
I want to always grow. I never ever want to be the person who says, I wish I would have. So I can tell you from experience that it's not always easy. I can tell you that there are times that you will do things that you so badly wanted to do, and it will be nowhere near as exciting or rewarding as you wanted it to be. I often experience that because I set myself these huge goals in life, and when I accomplish them, it's not that grand always. but
Yeah.
sometimes it is. And sometimes, oftentimes, what I'm finding now is that it's not about me, but it's looking at my team who's experiencing the win for the first time on that level. And man, that's exciting. That's good stuff. And now also realizing that I can go and share things with other people. So find your tribe is like so oversaid in life, but there's something real behind it. Go find your people. Move yourself away from those who are not supportive of you. And I gamify everything in life, which you'll, reading the book, you realize this, but I get up the first time my alarm goes off, I'm winning. I get to the coffee pot before my 3-year-old wakes up, pour a cup and actually get a sip, winning. Now listen, if that doesn't happen and she wakes up at 4:30 and I'm like, oh, I have to get upstairs and go get her and it's so early, I still get to look in the eyes of a healthy child. I am winning. I find
Amen.
ways all day long to tell myself what a winner I am, and I don't feel badly about it, and I refuse to. So
Yeah.
if you need friendly competition and you're like me, you gamify even trying to find a parking spot at the grocery store where you want it to be, I can turn most anything into a win, but I like don't feel badly about it. This is who you are. You know what motivates you in life. And when you are the best version of yourself, the world is better.
Mm.
End of discussion.
Whew, amen. So beautifully said. And the reframing, that's really where the magic is. You're right. Because you can win at anything depending on how you frame it and what you take from it and where you move from there.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm so sad we're towards the end here, but my last question that I ask every guest is, Laura, how do you make your life rich?
How do I make my life rich? A lot goes into what I just said, choosing my people, choosing who I surround myself with, and also choosing my thoughts. I am solely responsible for my own happiness in life. No one else is here on this planet to make me happy. It is my number one job in the world. And I take it seriously because when I am happy and when I am the best version of me, I show up better for my people that I love so dearly.
Yeah. Ooh, got me again. That was beautiful. Guys, check every single show note I'm going to put in the bottom of this episode. Laura, you are a treasure. I am just so thankful I got to speak with a powerhouse like you. Thank you for sharing all of your advice and recounting your stories with us. And thank you for your book. Your book is amazing. I literally read it in one day, couldn't put it down. Guys, buy the book. I will include a few different links for you to grab it. And you need to follow Laura. Just follow her on Instagram. She has so many amazing tips, so much information. You can't go wrong. And she is absolutely the crowd that you want to surround yourself with. So make sure you give her a follow. Laura, thank you so much. This was amazing. Your advice was paramount. And I just can't wait to see where your career continues to skyrocket towards.
Thank you for having me. I've truly enjoyed being here with you today.
Oh, thank you. Ah.